Questions are key components of dialogue, before, during, and after. So a good deal of attention should be paid to creating the right questions. Questions that elicit genuine curiosity, personal reflection, that enable people to be clearer about their purposes, their hopes, and concerns. Questions that bring new information and new thinking into the room. The power of questions can be illustrated by a case that we got involved with a number of years ago. We were working with a healthcare organization that had been divided for about 8 years over issues of money and staff deployment. Underneath those issues, the conflict was fueled by concerns, unaddressed concerns, about race, ethnicity, country of origin, hierarchy in the healthcare system, and social class. The challenge was to create conversations that would enable people to talk about how they imagined they were seen, how they wished to be seen, and to be able to reweave their experiences of productively collaborating with each other, to reweave those experiences back into the story that was told about the organization. We posed the following questions. Could you talk about an experience you've had here that would help others understand the meaning that your work has for you, why it matters to you, and what keeps you going? How do you imagine you're seen in terms of a stereotype, not in terms of who you really are? Could you think of a time, a particular moment in the course of working here, when someone saw you as you wish to be seen, as you see yourself? The result of people responding to these questions and hearing the responses of others was that many people felt seen for the first time by their colleagues. And they were surprised at what they learned about others in the room. This experience of being seen and surprised and learning set the stage for the constructive conversations that needed to happen about the very difficult financial decisions that needed to be made. Questions before the meeting, in an interview, for example, can do several things. They can help people remember the positive aspects of themselves and people that they're involved in conflict with that may have been forgotten. They can also help people think more widely about the multiple dimensions of the conflicts that they're involved with. And lastly, they can enable people to articulate, to clarify any concerns that they may have about the meeting that's coming up, and to be clear about their hopes and their purposes for participating. Facilitators work with planning teams to create a series of questions to open conversation. And those questions are designed to elicit personal experience, to enable people to talk about their strong points of view or perspectives, and to explore any gray areas that people may have within their overall perspective. This puts new information out into the room and gets people curious to learn more about where other people stand.
How does being a woman or a man affect your life, your thinking, your perspective, your ways of being in the world?
I have Asian parents, and so I'm Korean, and so that's a fairly paternalistic society where there's just much more hard and fast gender stereotypes and ideas of how people should behave. But I grew up here, and my mother's a pretty strong figure, so on one hand I have an idea, oh, women should do this and men should do that. On the other, having grown up here, I think it's been great because it is more flexible than in the States. So.
When we pose questions to a group, we ask people to first take a moment and pause, reflect, think about what they really want to say, to write down their response, and then to speak in turn around the circle with time limits. And as people are answering questions, we also ask listeners to take a role by jotting down their curiosities, questions that they may have, assumptions that they may want to check out later when there's an opportunity for asking each other questions. Through it all, we want to be sure that people understand that saying pass is fine. We call it the pass rule, because we don't want anyone to feel compelled to respond to any question that we or other people pose to them. Then people are invited to ask one another questions of genuine interest that spring from the curiosity that has come from hearing what everyone's had to say earlier in the dialogue. These questions can convey respect and build understanding.
The balance between your wife that is breadwinner, as you mentioned, and power in the family, and how that was perceived by other friends or acquaintances in your area, whether some of them saw it as, how did they see the role change in your case?
We ask people to avoid the kinds of questions that create and sustain conflict. Rhetorical, judgmental, accusatory, and shaming questions.